politician. He's served as member of the European Parliament, and I think in this instance, crucially as well, father of the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. It's Stanley Johnson. Let's give him a clap on the way in. There we are. Stanley, loads to talk about, but the first things first. We need your son back.
Hey, well, I heard your plug for this little thing. I'm not here to talk about whether or not, Boris is to return. I can tell you that. But I will say to you that I think the government, the Conservative government, is drinking in what you might call the last Chancellor saloon. Saloon, yeah. Because we have to get it right. We have to get it right. We have, I think, to have a fairly major change in policy, and of course we've got a new chancellor, and that gives us a chance for a change in policy. But we have to have it. And what I would say, and I say that also someone who's been an environmentalist a very long time, I'd say what has gone wrong is we have not yet had the U-turn we need to have about what you might call the growth idea, because it is too narrow a concept, as Rachel Reeves just said a moment ago. It's the trickle-down concept. We basically need to have something much more sophisticated. I go back to 1987, when the Prime Minister of Norway launched something called the Brundtland Report on Sustainable Development. Why do we never hear the word sustainable growth? That's what we need to hear. And it's real. I just made one point here. The economists around the place, like Dieter Helm, make it absolutely clear. If you go for sustainable growth, you'll have much more enduring and more effective growth.
So you hope that this brings in a sea change for a new environmentalist agenda. But Stanley, it is remarkable that people thought that Boris Johnson's stint was embroiled in scandal or chaos, for example. I mean, it's nowhere near as chaotic as this, is it? I mean, surely now this has made Boris Johnson look good.
Look, and you can hardly call me an objective observer, but I will say, as far as some of the key issues I've just been talking about are concerned, the combination of Cameron, Osborne, Boris, and yes, Michael Gove as well, did set this country right on few major things. The Environment Act, the Agriculture Act, the reform of planning, and I really worry that we have not confronted. Why do you think today there is these riots in the street, not riots in the street, but a parade in the streets out number 10? Why do you think that something like 12 million people have joined up with the WWF, with National Trust, with a whole lot of other things? Because it's not that they're talking about personalities, they're talking about the direction of travel. And it is so important to get this right. We don't believe in impoverishing this country. We do believe in getting the right kind of growth in the right places and not scrapping a lot of things we need.
OK, all right. What do you think of Liz Truss?
I'm very impressed by Liz Truss as a personality. I've enjoyed working with her. I've seen her, and for heaven's sake, it has been a difficult time. But I want to hear her make these major commitments to do things which people of my generation, because I'm talking about people who grew up as environmentalists in the 60s and 70s, they've forgotten about us, and talk now about growth. We need the economy to deliver, but it has to be the right economy. And that is that economy what will deliver.
Stanley, are you concerned now, though, that people feel politically homeless, that there is fertile ground for a new party, someone who cares about, for example, stopping illegal immigration that's going on in the Channel? If you go to any pub in the country now, you will hear people talking about stopping what's going on in the Channel, cutting down on illegal immigration. And we do not seem to have any political party at the minute that wants to do that.
Well, I am not going to start saying we need another new party. I'm absolutely not. We've had the new parties. We've had Nigel Farage. We've had the Brexit Party. They've had their say. We now have a major political problem on our hands, and I do believe this country, if you ask me to talk about immigration now, well, it is slightly ironic, isn't it, that as a result of Brexit, we ended up by, as it were, cutting down on immigrants from, as it were, the EU countries, and finding ourselves now having to find immigrants from all sorts of other countries. It is just a strange paradox. It's absolutely right that we should get on top of this, and I think that the government was and is making an effort. But here I make this last point: there's absolutely no point being rude to the French if you want to cooperate with the French in dealing with immigration. That is absolutely obvious.
What? Why? Because you don't like the French?
If you start being rude to the French, are you really going to expect them to make every effort to stop, people getting to the little boats, crossing the channel? Be serious. You've got to be serious about this. No, go on.
Just lastly, Stanley, I just want to say you've put across your own views there, and I think it's really commendable everything that you are dedicated, completely and utterly dedicated to the environment. The only last point I would say, forgive me for being a little bit cheeky, but the best way for you to get your environmentalist agenda onto the map would be to bring back Boris and lobby him hard, wouldn't it?
We have a completely different relationship, I can tell you. If I ever lobby Boris hard, it's because I appear on something of your programme and hope that by some faint chance he might actually switch on. No, what I would like to do, though, is lobby the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, the unbelievably important role he now holds, Jeremy Hunt now holds. It's there. He can get the growth, but he can get the right kind of growth, and he can bring, of course, the fiscal stability. Let's not forget about the fiscal stability. That's what we're pointing about here.